slow dancing. So today we're going to go through some experiments as well as some exercises and dance games to try to make slow dancing feel a little bit more accessible and most importantly, feel a little bit more expressive to the dancer. Of course, jazz doesn't mean anything if you are not present in the movements that you're doing, so hopefully these exercises can give you some structure for how to practice doing that, especially with these slower tempo songs. So we're going to get started with a warm-up, just warming up the body head to toe, just moving and mobilizing, and of course, as usual, at the end of that warm-up, if you don't feel quite ready to move, if something's asking for some more attention, hit pause on this video, warm it up, roll it out, stretch it out, whatever it needs, if it's your legs, your arms, whatever. Pay attention to your body and making sure you're taking care of yourself before we get started with class. So without further ado, we're going to warm up to the lovely Tara and the Jazz Bombs song, Home, or As Shadows Fall, which is one of my very favorites off of her new album. Starting with the head, looking up and down.
When shadows fall and trees respond, days and days,
Side to side.
on falls forever wending. Oh,
Now circles.
when it's cold, my heart is with you.
Reverse.
Once more to be returning. Oh,
Now the shoulders.
when the hills
Up and down.
conceal the setting sun, stars they go a-peeping one by one. Now I
Shoulders
got
back.
my own love, though fortune may forsake me.
And reverse.
Sweet dreams will take me, they'll take me home.
Now just the chest. Forward. And back. Forward. Back. Forward. Side. Back. Side. And smooth it out. Now reverse. And a smooth circle. Now the hips. Just a big old circle. Most giant mess around ever. Reverse it. And just side to side. We're going to draw some circles with the knee. And reverse it, coming inwards. Switch legs. Don't be afraid to hold something for balance. Reverse. And bend down.
Hills will see
Nice and flat.
the setting sun.
And up.
Stars they go peeping.
And
One by one, they go peeping.
A little faster.
Night.
Hey.
Stars all I know. Fortune may save me. My sweet dreams ever.
Do some ankle
My
circles.
sweet dreams will ever. My
Reverse it.
sweet dreams will ever. They'll take me home.
All right, hopefully you're feeling a little more warmed up. Like I said at the beginning, if something isn't quite feeling ready to dance, pause the video and come back when you've stretched it, rolled it out, given it whatever attention it needs. I want to make sure that you're feeling like the best dancing is going to happen when you're, I'm going into way more detail than I need to. All right, hopefully you're feeling a little bit more warmed up. If anything, like I said, if anything, all right, hopefully you're feeling a little more warmed up and ready to move. If anything is asking for a little bit more attention, like I said, pause the video, make sure you stretch, roll, move, whatever is asking for a little bit more love and attention. Make sure your body is feeling good before you ask a lot of it. So if you are feeling ready to move, we're gonna hop into our first experiment, which is leading and lingering limbs. And we're gonna start with leading limbs. That just means picking a body part, and you're gonna lead with that body part. It could be something as goofy as your nose, or an ear, or perhaps a whole arm. But the idea here is to go through your body parts. I'll show a few, and this is something you can practice on your own time. I'll show a few, and the idea is just to find all of the ways that one body part can initiate something for the whole body. So I'll show starting with the arm, and then the leg, and then I'll just goof off a little bit. But the idea here is to really stick with it and find all of the funny ways that you do like and all the ways that you don't like, because those are both really valuable pieces of information. Finding the ways that we don't like to move are just as important as finding the ways that we do, because if we don't know what we don't like, we probably don't know what we do like as well. So finding both is really important. So I'm going to put on another song by Tara and the Jazz Moms, and we're just going to move. Pick a body part. If you need a choice made for you, I'm going to just start with my arm. So you can go ahead and do that too if you need a choice or a lack thereof. And then I'll move to my legs and goof off a little bit as the song goes on. Enjoyed that experiment. I really love this exercise because I always end up finding some motion, some movement that I find particularly inspiring or something that I want to explore a little bit more that I haven't yet. So our bodies are full of surprises, and if you follow along with what you're inclined to do, then you often find something that's really interesting, and those vaguely interesting ideas are something I talk a lot about, those half good, half mysterious but fully unbaked ideas are the things that I find most valuable in practice, because those are the ones that I can latch onto and keep exploring. And then I put them in the oven, turn up the jazz thermometer, and something cool comes out. Or something that I don't want to repeat comes out, and then I've learned something new about my own dancing. So anyway, we're going to move on to lingering limbs. So this was leading limbs. I was leading with my arm, leading with my nose, really have fun with it. But this time I want to linger, so I'm going to leave something behind. This might feel quite similar, because you might notice as you leave something behind, as you might choose, I would recommend choosing either a leg or an arm to start with, and then playing around with some other things. Maybe smaller, more, less definitive body parts. How do you leave a pinky finger behind? I don't know, you tell me. But we're gonna play around with lingering, and in doing so, you might find that maybe your shoulder is ending up leading more. You might find that something ends up leading and it bleeds into the other exercise. That might happen. And that's, I think, a good thing. You might find some new leading information while finding some new lingering information. So play around with lingering limbs. I'll go ahead and do the same limbs in the same order, starting with my arm. Then I'll move to my leg, and we'll play the rest of this Tara and the Jazz Bomb song. Ideas that you want to keep playing with. I really like doing this reaching and lingering exercise. Really, every time I do it, I find something new. So if you found a couple of mildly interesting ideas, maybe make a note of them right now, because since they are half-baked, sort of not quite fully fledged, they're not in your muscles or your bones yet, so they might be easy to forget. And I find these to be one of the most valuable pieces of experimenting and practice time. So make notes if you need to. And if you are ready to move on, we're going to move on to experiment number 2, which is to play around with faster tempos in slower music, by which I mean playing around with double time. So if the music is going along with its pretty slow pace, maybe it has a pace something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We can double time it by adding a beat in between every beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So some of the ways that I like to do this are maybe throwing in some Charleston. If you want some Charleston ideas, we have a whole class of Charleston from last month, from the February, March dance lab. So you can check that out if you want some Charleston ideas that you could slow down and maybe put into some double time moments. But I have a specific one that I'd like to give you today, which is with low downs. If you have practiced the Tranky-Do, you might recognize them from the very first chorus of choreography, which are these sticking your leg out motions. They have a lot of different traditional stylings. Sometimes you just stick the leg up, and sometimes it bears weight. The ones that I'm going to show you today bear some weight. It's a little bit like a slow motion triple step where it's not quite going to take all of your weight, but it will take some. So these low downs are going to look like this, nice and slow. I'll show front, side, back. We have a 1, a 3, a 5, a 7, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, 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 hey. Good. A fake step and back together. Fake, fake. And when I say fake, I mean I'm not committing my weight completely to the direction of that step. My weight is on that foot because the other foot is now off the ground, but I'm pushing my weight right back on the step. It's like renting versus buying a home. I'm just renting this space, but I have bought this space. My weight needs my foot to be here. My foot doesn't have to be there. So with these low downs, we can do them really slowly and it feels really nice. Hey, hey. And because they have so much room and they're a rather simple step, I find these to be a really nice move to speed up a little and do a little bit of double time. So we can do a 1, a 3, a 1, 2, 3, 4, a 1, 2, 3, 4, a 1, 2, 3, 4, a 1, a 3, a 1, 2, 3, 4, a 1, a 3, a 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 3 steps. Step, ball change, step, ball change, step, ball change, step, ball change. It just depends on the speed. So I'm going to put on that same song and we can try out this slow and then double time. So right now I'm doing 2 slow and then 4 quick. So we'll go ahead and try this out. I'll show front, side, back so you can see it. Try it along with me and then we'll after this play around a little bit with finding your own methods of double time and where you like to play around with that. Hey, hey.
When bullets ride, they love to ride about the Southland.
Hey.
It's not exaggeration, it's not imagination. If you wanna see moon and all its splendor, if you want to see the way the stars can shine, if you wanna feel the breeze that's sweet and tender, spend an evening in Caroline.
So this is just one example of a double time moment. And these can be found in any step. And if you're working on your fast dancing as well, you can also half time any step and make a slow motion to contrast some faster motions. So in our slow dancing, you can choose whatever step you're sort of inclined to do for a slow dance, or a slow song, and find a moment to double time it. This can either be a step that you're already doing, or you can also switch over, as I mentioned before. I like to put in some Charleston. If I'm doing something really smooth and slow, I might take a moment to do some Charleston. And it doesn't have to be a long period of fast dancing. It can be just for a moment and then right on back to slow motion. Or you can take quite a long time. It's really up to you. The world is your oyster, but play around with both that low down step and whatever steps you find yourself enjoying, because those are the steps that your body is already, sort of ingrained into. And those steps feel good because they're something that you already have some piece of you in. So practice those steps first and then experiment out, expand, and see what comes up. Hey, 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 hey.
If you wanna feel the breeze, so sweet and tender, spend an evening in Caroline. Now if you really wanna hear the reaper will serve, and the answer to the words, will you be mine? If you wanna give your heart a perfect thrill, sir, spend an evening in Caroline. Yes, sir, say what you like.
With this experiment, just like the last one, I really find the possibilities to be endless. Whatever step, your favorite step, your least favorite step, they can all be double timed, they can all be used as something that you can use to make a moment of contrast in a slow or a smooth or whatever texture you're working with song. So if you need a little bit of Charleston inspiration, I have a whole class on Charleston from last month, from the March 2020 class. So go check that out if you need some Charleston thoughts, some Charleston moves, inspiration. But we're gonna move on to experiment number 3, which is to have a trajectory to your dance. Go somewhere. Either start small and get big, or maybe get big and get small. Maybe you're going to start vague and get really specific. But having somewhere that you're going and a general goal can both give direction to your dancing, and just having an objective as someone creating something will sort of automatically give a little bit of fodder to the creative fire. So I'm gonna put on a song, and you can think of a place that you want to start and a place that you want to go. Texture can be a really fun thing to play with, creating some contrast between two things, but something that you can find an opposite. So I find that it's easiest for me to think of something that I want to get to. So for this experiment, I want to try playing with the size of my dancing, and I want to try going from small to big, but I want to have big as my goal. So I'm going to start thinking, okay, I want to get really big. I'm going to start thinking about what are all of the opposites of the big motions that I have, and so I'll start in this small space, and then I'll slowly grow and get bigger. And of course that's a very simple example, but if you want to maybe start, or you want to end somewhere, I find it's easier to make this starting from the end goal and finding the opposite to start at. If you want to end feeling light and airy, then the contrast would be something really heavy. If you wanted to end playing around with maybe getting really low, then of course the opposite is having a lot more tallness to your dancing. Again, endless possibilities, but find something that has some polar opposites. Start at one and end at the other. And of course, you can also reverse it and start at the one that you ended with and go the other direction. So I'm gonna show, like I said, going from small to big, but just like the other experiments, endless possibilities.
When shadows fall and trees whisper, days ending, my thoughts revel wending. Oh, when it's cold, my heart is with yearning once more to be returning. Oh, when the hills conceal the setting sun, stars they go a-peeping one by one. Night gathers over, Lord, fortune may forsake me. Sweet dreams will take me, they'll take me home.
All right, I love playing with these opposites. I really find that having an objective to my dancing ends up bringing out some things that I might not ordinarily do. If I have the objective of just dancing, that's a little hard to say if I did it or not. I guess if I keep moving, then sure, I kept dancing, but if I have an objective, You know, if I want to see how big I can grow and whatever else I want to do, that gives me a lot more direction and a little bit more specificity to my movement. So I find having these goals to be quite helpful. So play around with these and find maybe what textures and what opposites you particularly enjoy. And this can be kind of molded to fit whatever you want. You can perhaps focus on just one step. I could start small with these low downs and then get bigger. And then get bigger. And it might turn into something with a much different texture by the end than these tiny ones. And of course, vice versa, you can start with something really big and just focus on shrinking it and find, man, what does it boil down to? Lots of ideas to play with. The speed at which you travel from big to small or small to big, or between whatever opposite you're playing with, can also be a really exciting thing to play with. Of course, going from 0 to 100 immediately is going to have a really different feel than going from 0 to 100 over the course of a whole chorus. I started really small and really did take that whole chorus that we just danced to get to this gigantic dance stance, I guess you could call it. But you know, you can take however much time you want, and then once you arrive there, you are free to pick a different goal. So anyway, play around with these opposites and find what brings you a little bit of dance joy and allows you to really put more of you into the dance. So, experiment number 4. This is our last experiment for this month's dance lab, and this one is just going to start with stillness, and it's going to be a bit of an exercise in patience. So the idea here is we're going to start completely still. You can sit, you can stand, whatever floats your boat. And the idea is to wait until a motion comes. Wait until maybe you have to stretch an arm or move your shoulders a little bit, and that's going to be the inspiration for the motion that starts the dancing. So if perhaps I wanted to start, that's a pretty small motion in comparison to the moves and the steps that we do. This doesn't feel like much, but if I roll my shoulder, that's the first way that my body wants to react, whether it's to the music or just to the fact that I'm being still. I'm going to let that be the instigator for some motion. So maybe I follow my shoulder a little bit, and then maybe that leads to my elbow and leads to my whole arm, and then maybe I'm finding a moment where my arms are really involved, and wherever I end up finding motion is going to be where I'm going to try to find some inspiration for this song. So of course the music is a great place to find inspiration, but this can be our movement base, while the music can guide where that base is built to. So one more song. I'm going to practice with that home song from Tara and the Jazz Bombs one last time. Really lovely tune. And we're going to stand here for a little while. It might be a moment. It might be most of the song, and until you find a motion that really makes you move.
When shadows fall and trees respond, days ending, my thoughts forever wending. Oh, when crickets call, my heart is really yearning once more to be returning. Oh, when the hills conceal the setting sun, stars they go a-peeping one by one. Night gathers over, though fortune may forsake me, sweet dreams will take me
experiment as a way to sort of practice the curiosity and discovery muscle. I think jazz really is best experienced as an experience in discovery. You don't necessarily know what your partner is going to do if you're partner dancing, or what the song is going to do if you're solo dancing or partner dancing, or what the people around you are doing if you're social dancing. But you also have plenty of things you can discover about your own dancing, and I think being surprised by our own body's motions can be really lovely, and finding some space to explore that can be really nice. And this is one of my favorite ways to do that. I think our inclinations can use some more nurturing, some more exploration, and this way of starting with a blank slate, with no demands on it. I mean, perhaps if you were looking for some motion, you might have some pressure on it, but if you can lift that and just let this be an experience of curiosity and discovery. You know, if you discover that you are just going to be still for the whole song, you've still discovered something. You know, discovery is a nice, ambiguous goal that's quite easy to achieve, but can also lead to some really important findings for your own self as a creative mover. So, finding some stillness. How often do we find stillness in our own dance practice? I find this to be very, very useful. So, I hope you found these exercises and experiments helpful. They really are sort of ambiguous, endless, do it with everything sort of exercises. So I hope these are helpful for you in your own practice time. As usual, if you have any questions or comments or concerns about any of the work that we've done in this dance lab, feel free to reach out. You have my contact information on Patreon. You can reach out to me via message or via email, and I will see you next month for the next edition of Dance Lab. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next month.
With the eyes swing, baby. With the it's not just dancing. To the eye cling, baby, whenever I get a chance. With the eyes swing, baby. For the heart's so entrancing, my heart goes bing, baby, whenever we start to dance.
Hello and welcome to this month's Dance Lab. This month's topic is slow dancing, and today we're going to cover topics like, I don't know, don't remember, didn't read my notes. Haha, read my notes. As we go through these, make sure that